So we have my dad here today, John
Good morning.
Taylor, and we're going to be talking about a collection of photos, and I'm going to show you them, and then we're going to hear what you have to say about them. What kind of themes are you picking up on from these images?
Well, it seems to me that it's like a collection of images of life passing by. The contextual relationship is that there's no relation between any of the images, in the sense that, they're all very different. They're all, there's not a single subject that's being looked at. It's sort of like eavesdropping on life as it passed by. I mean, if you edited these down, I could see you being able to tell a very strong visual story about just how life plays out. It's like we always think of life as sort of being this dramatic, cataclysmic collection of events, but it's not. It happens randomly, slowly, and it's not very pretty most of the times. We don't, it just shows the environments that we exist in, and what those environments, how they reflect back upon us. I mean, like the image there with the balloons and the flowers, it's the balloons and flowers are, beautiful colors. And then we have this advertisement for gentrification that's been defaced.
Yeah, I actually had that down as a theme: passing or fleeting moments, also mundane, everyday acts in the now photography. So, what are your everyday acts, would you say?
Well, I think the one thing that I found interesting about the photos that you showed me is that they're not really about the routine of life. They're more about the randomness of life. It's about, we find our place, or we find ourselves in places that we can't foresee. The one with the man sitting at the diner counter, does he sit there every day? And if he does he order the same thing every day? And if he does, one day he could go in and someone could be sitting next to him, and one day he could go in and there's a different waitress or waiter, or the one where the pancake is sitting at a person's foot. That is random. Those are things that are not planned and not routine. I don't think that the images you showed me necessarily reflect routine or even a mundane experience. I think they reflect upon the randomness of life, that, at any given moment, anything can happen.
Do you think it teaches us something to watch others or ourselves repeat these actions? But I guess in your case, since you don't see them as like repetitive acts, I think I'm more thinking of them in more of like the morning transportation, coffee or breakfast,
Right.
not
Right.
man getting breakfast, pancake on the floor
Mhm.
at breakfast, like the
Well,
basic.
I think if you're trying to express that it should then be a collection of, life in the day of, so, I could see, collection of a half dozen people with getting coffee.
That's how they will be organized.
Okay, because I think that, in that, then we can study the peculiarities of human behavior. So even though 10 people may go in to get a cup of coffee at the same exact place, we all go about it differently in some way. If you had presented those to me in that form, I probably would have had a different interpretation about. I would have seen them more as a study of behavior and routines, as opposed to, a collection of photographs that showed the random occurrences of everyday life.
Why do you think I might, or people who might also find these images visually intriguing, why do you think that is? I was thinking relatability or comfort. There's comfort in like a routine, or comfort in other people going about life in a similar way, or like being surrounded by people.
I mean, for me, just looking at them in the random order that they were presented, I was looking more for the visual, what is my visual connection to these images? What do I see in them that interests me as a viewer, not as a participant? So I wasn't looking at them and thinking, oh, I see myself in that image, or I do that same thing, but I do it differently. I was looking at it more from a visual context of what is it about this image that is of some visual interest to me. And, I found that a number of them were great examples of the classic approach to street photography. I think one of the, it seems like a good percentage of them are taken from behind. And I think in that sense, I had sort of this voyeuristic, it's like you're almost the shadow of someone. You're like a part of that scene, but you're not in it, because you can't see the person's expression. You can't see, what they're doing in front of you, but you can see what they see, behind, in front of them. Whereas some of the other images, the little girl in the bathroom, to me, that was a very compelling image. I just felt this sense of loneliness, but also exploration. It was like she was entering into this room that she, had never been in before. And she was all alone, and she's just framed by this huge, square. And she looked very diminutive. And, so I thought that was a very impactful. I liked the image of the woman sitting on the bench, just absolutely, completely comfortable. She could have been sitting on her own couch in her own living room, sitting, reading that paper. That's how at ease she was in the place she had placed herself. To your question about, do I find comfort in the images that you showed me, in the sense that, oh, I could imagine myself doing these same things? I don't think I really looked at them from that perspective. Because I wasn't an active participant in that event. So I looked at it more from what does it say to me as a photograph, or what was that experience like for that individual? And how did they get there? Because there's a mystery in the captured image, and that it is just, you don't see what came before and you don't see what comes after. You capture a moment in time, and then you have to fill in the blanks. That's what was powerful about this collection of images, is that, these were such different situations that you captured, and different people doing totally different things. And, so there was a lot to take in and a lot to think about.
You kind of brought this up, how like I am taking photos of some act that someone is going through aimlessly or mindlessly in their day, but for some reason I, from an outward perspective, find it interesting, and for some reason I decide to capture it. Like you were saying, how you aren't personally finding comfort in this like action or this moment because you weren't there, but for me, I get to live kind of like I am them. His companionship with the subject. And then what you were saying about capturing the moment, and like perspective is perception, which I feel like is a big topic in like the beginning of photography and learning about the ethics of photography, and like how the framing of an image can change the overall perception. Yeah, that kind of leads me into, I think it's Walter Benjamin, and how he was kind of talking about the paradox of photography, and how he said, incapable of photographing a tenement or rubbish heap without transfiguring it. It turns even abject poverty itself by handling it in a modish, technically perfect way into an object of enjoyment. which I feel like is kind of what I'm doing, turning these throwaway moments into like a captured moment and somehow making them beautiful and like not even enjoyable, but just like capturing the everyday.
Think about some of the most famous photographs. I mean, the famous photograph of the sailor returning from World War II and kissing the woman in Times Square, and, so it's like, and it's famous because it creates this idyllic, environment. In the story behind it, of course, they total strangers, didn't know each other. And then you think about, the other one from the Vietnam War where the guy's being shot and, it's this visceral reaction and you don't understand the whole story because the story is that this person who's being shot had actually just murdered, a number of people. So we do glamorize the things, by capturing them because we then impart context upon them that we really don't have the right to, So I think the idea about photography that makes it so interesting is this, you can live vicariously through photography, right? You can experience something that you never ever would be able to through other people and through the images that are captured of other people doing those things or experiencing something or being in a place. You think about the thing, visually the things that are most popular are usually the things that are least suggestive. So you think about, the beautiful landscapes and the kissing couple and, the things that are like, they make us feel safe and happy. If we're forced to look at life as it actually happens, then that requires something of the viewer. To me, that's without understanding what your point of these images is, that's the impression I get about them, is it's forcing us to look at life as it happens, moment by moment, gesture by gesture, and place by place. So that's where I think the power in the collection of images lies.
On that note, I feel like art in general, romanticizing things like poverty, like in Baroque paintings, or like romanticizing the maids and the wealthy and kind of their life and creating kind of these beautiful images that now are hung up in museums. Art just really has the power of showing the good and bad of the world and like this visual documentation. There's a lot of leeway in how it's represented though, which I think is what can either be good or bad.
I mean, I've always been interested in the, paintings of, I'm sure I'm mispronouncing his name, but Peter Bruegel. They were very detailed depictions of what life was really like in town centers, in the, probably 15th, 16th century, and he didn't shy away from the brutality and the despair, which, like you say, a lot of paintings from that period, because it was the wealthiest people who could actually afford to have paintings done for them, are of more of that, idyllic type of setting. It's like the person, the family together, the person's portrait, and all of the blemishes and ugliness are removed. And I think that by capturing the photographs that you did, there is no filter, right? It's like, this is not to say that I would place them alongside Bruegel's paintings. They're not quite that good, but I think they aspire to something closer to that than, because it's showing what is happening in front of you. And I think your focus on identifying the small or a microcosm of those occurrences is what makes them even more interesting to view.
All right, perfect. Thanks for talking with me about my images and art and photography and the everyday life.
You're welcome. It's great seeing you.